Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Ken Rolfness, and we'd like to congratulate you for taking the steps that may assist you in your physical, your mental, your health-wise, and also a lot of people, is most important to them, their financial futures. Now, you're going to see some great things in this presentation. First, I'll share with you some secrets that the wealthy know, and that's why they're wealthy, and we're going to share some of them with you. I'll also share with you some exciting features and benefits about the company that we've chosen to market, and that's Tahitian Noni International, and also our one-of-a-kind business opportunity. Then after that, you'll hear from Terrence McMahon. He's the president of AdTourism LLC, and he's going to share with you all the details about the fantastic cruise that maybe got you here at this stage right here, and he'll explain the details on our groundbreaking business opportunity. And this is a business building service that will assist you to get whatever it is that you're looking for. Now, at the end of his presentation, you'll receive it's a completion code. You're going to have a code that's given to you. And when you get that, you're going to give that to your program manager, which you can see here in the text box. They're there to answer any questions for you and to be able to help you walk through the process. Now, this code will allow us to award you that cruise for two to the Bahamas. And it is a wonderful cruise. We were just on a cruise in the Bahamas, just my first time to the Bahamas. I can't wait to get there again. It's exciting. Now, but before all of that happens, we need to share with you what we've got here. Now, you should see the screen, and it should say Show Me the Money. And on the top right-hand side, if you need to see the presentation bigger, then you just click on that Maximize button. Now, basically, you already know, I'm assuming, what it is that you want. And if you don't, Jack Zufelt, the Presidential Medal of Merit, he's got a wonderful book that you can check out. It's brilliant. But know what it is that you want with all your heart, and we're going to show you how to get it. Now, about me, I'm half Samoan, half Norwegian. Grew up in Blue Springs, Missouri, small town in Missouri, near Kansas City. Go Chiefs. And I went to Australia and served a 2-year mission with a Christian church. I met Michelle Holsworth. We got married, had a big Samoan wedding, and everyone thought, wow, they must have money because they see all these people and see this cake and this band. But the reality was this. I took my wife on our honeymoon to the exotic locations of Interstate Inn. It was just down the street. It was $5. Oh no, sorry, it was $12 a night. I don't even think it's there anymore. It was one of those places that is, yeah, it's kind of embarrassing. Anyways, I became a factory worker. I used to retread truck tires, and it was a smelly, dingy, horrible position. Anyways, moved to Australia, lived with my wife's parents, wonderful, wonderful people, and I started working for this gentleman named Phil. His gentleman sitting there next to me. Now, to give you an idea about Phil, Phil's a very wealthy Italian man, and he's done well. If you go into the who's who of business in the library, go to 1998 and in 2001, you'll see that man in there. Anyways, long story short, I wanted something more out of life. I just didn't want to be a factory worker, and while I was working for Phil, I was horrible. I was in sales. I was no good at sales. And it was shortly after that friends of mine from church asked me if I'd heard about this company, this Noni, and I was like, what? It's like, no, it's not. That doesn't sound cool. Anyways, I got this audio tape and I listened to it, and I thought, this product helps people. My dad had Parkinson's. Mom had high blood pressure. My sister had chronic fatigue. My wife couldn't have children naturally for 10 years. We were married for 10 years. And all sorts of things were going on. And so I thought, maybe it'll help my family. So I took that tape and I gave it to Phil. And I said, Phil, you're rich, I'm poor. On this audio is a bunch of doctors talking about how this stuff from the islands helps their patients. Anyways, he kind of kept putting me off, but a week later, he finally listened to it. Because every day I asked him, did you listen to it? Did you listen to it? What was your favorite part? Anyways, he calls me up and says, Ken, he goes, I just heard that audio tape. He says, yeah? I said, if a quarter of what's on this is true, you and I are going to make a lot of money. And I was like, money? It's just doctors talking about a fruit. Come on. He says, you don't understand what you might have. Forget all the big diseases these doctors are talking about. What if only it helps this and this and this, and it's 100% natural fruit juice? You may have just discovered the fountain of youth. Now that fountain of youth, that's kind of cool. Anyways, long story short, him and his wife Nolene, they fly to America. Now remember, we're living on the other side of the world. We're in Australia, Brisbane, Australia. I don't know if I told you that, but in Australia. And goes over to America, meets the owners, some of the owners of the company, calls me up and says, Ken, I just checked the company out. They're debt-free. Their second year, they're doing $10 million a month. He says, this is good. He goes, what's your ID number? And I said, why? He said, well, I'd like to get started, and I need to come in under somebody, and I'm the one that introduced them. I was like, really? So all of a sudden, My boss now works for me. It's kind of a like, wow. Anyways, long story short, 3 months. I started in June of 1998. By September of that year, I was able to fire my boss, which is so cool. But here's what's neat. Just a few months after that, he actually sold that company because after all of his overheads that he had to pay and all the staff, he had 80 salesmen at the time and all this that were working for him when I was working for him. All of a sudden, he got rid of that company and now he does this with me full time. But here's what's cool. 1 year later, remember I was living with my wife's parents. After 1 year, I was able to buy my wife this 7-bedroom resort-style dream home. Now, I'm not telling you these things to boast or to brag, not at all. I'm just sharing it with you so that you kind of you know that I've been there and I've done that. So I'm not the smartest guy on the planet, not on the block. But I don't know. I wanted something really bad. I wanted something for my wife, and an opportunity presented itself, and the product ended up being life changing for so many people. Well, anyways, I did. I bought the house, and then of course the standard thing. I bought my first Mercedes, is an S-Class Benz, bulletproof windows, all that jazz. 7 Series Beamers, Lexus 470, all that sort of stuff. But here's what's pretty cool. I have 3 children now, and you know they're young. We're like the oldest people at the elementary school. You know, see the gray beard, and when I go pick up Zachary, it's not, hey, here's your mom and dad. Say, hey, how's your grandpa doing? Thanks a lot. You know, see you later. And so it's tough. And then I was able to do things that I could never do when I was growing up with my family, my friends, and it was really nice to be able to do that. Now, if you're like most people, you could care less about me and my family because you want to know what's in it for you and your family. And I'm sure you don't just want the cruise. The cruise is wonderful, but you'll be on it and it's done. I'm sure that you're looking at this for a lot more than that. Now, this is what most people do. They go what's called the 40-45 plan. That means they work for 40 hours a week plus, and they do it for 45 years. They start working around 20 and hopefully retire by 65, hoping that they're going to have all this money saved so that they can go sip pina coladas on the beach or something. But the reality is that out of every 100 people that turn 65, only 4 are financially independent. And I was like, that's not good enough. That's where my family, on my Samoan side, that's where they were going. And I wanted to change that. So I started learning some different things. And this gentleman is Robert Kiyosaki, and he wrote a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And he also wrote another book called The Cash Flow Quadrant. And this is where it kind of started settling in for me. You see, he says that most people are in these quadrants: the employee, self-employed, the business owner, and the investor. Now, the right side of the quadrant is where you want to be at. But we're not going to talk about the investor. That's where money makes money. Okay, we're going to be on the business side. But most people are on the other side of the quadrant, the employee and the self-employed. And the basics are, when you're an employee, you work for someone else. You have no life, 40 hours plus a week, time away from your family. You've got the traffic, the commute, the control, no control, and the tax advantages. That is bigger in this country in America than I ever imagined. So you don't have any of that. Now let's go to a self-employed. Self-employed people go, man, I'd like to have a restaurant like that guy down the street. They don't realize that most of them never make it because you have high risk, major startup capital. The business owns you. You have one location. You basically bought a job. Have you ever noticed that the ones that own the restaurants and all these things, they're the first ones in, they're the last ones to leave, and they get what's left. Hopefully what's left is this big party, but in most cases it's not. Now, I have around 13 or 14 doctors that live around, with a couple bucks. And I love them to death, and they're amazing. But this is how my mind thinks. I see that doctor went to school for 8 years, and he makes a lot of money. He or she makes a ton of money when they're seeing somebody. But if they're not seeing a patient, they're not getting paid. And so that's kind of like the same way, as long as you're working hard. Now, let's go to the other side of the quadrant. The business owner, let's take that same doctor. But that time, this doctor owns a practice, and that practice has 10 doctors working for them. Now, the doctor is going to make something from each one of those doctors. And when that person goes on vacation, they can go on vacation and they're still going to get paid. The benefits for having your own business: you have unlimited income, flexible work schedule, mentors and advisor, low startup costs, residual income, recession proof, and one of my favorite things is the tax advantages. That's bigger than I imagined. Now, I've told you about some of the secrets, and one of my favorite to the secrets of the wealthy is this: pretend like I'm a genie and I can give you one wish, but there's only 2 choices. First, $1 million. Give you $1 million, zing. Or the second choice, I'll give you 1 penny. But but it doubles every day. But it only does that for 31 days. But you take that penny and you have to drive an hour north to see a friend of mine named Vendela. And when you take it to her, she's going to double it, and she can give you 2 pennies. Then you got to drive back, then you got to go up the next day, and you're going to give her the 2 pennies. She's going to zing, going to give you 4 pennies. You do that every day for 31 days. Which would you choose? Well, I was a factory worker. $1 million for me, please. Who wants to run around for pennies? That's what I was thinking. So let's begin. You get to vendor this place on the first day, that 1 penny, 2 penny, 4 penny. You can take a calculator and follow this. By the 10th day, $5.12. How embarrassing. Some people get really frustrated and said, I've been driving, putting gas in my car, fighting this traffic, and I got $5.12. I quit. Some people say, well, you know what? It's okay. Let's keep going. Well, you take that $5 to Vendela, and she doubles it the next day. It's $10, then $20, and $40, and $81. And by the 20th day, $5,200. That doesn't sound so hot. Like, you should have taken the $1 million, right? Some people said, I've been doing this for 20 days. I quit. Boom. Some people say, you know what? We got into this thing. We're not into this thing for just like that. So some people stay. What happens in day 21? You drive to Vendela. You give her that 5,000. Zing. And turns to 10,000. Then the next day, 20,000, 41,000. All of a sudden, you can't wait to see Vendela. You're going to go put the gas in. In fact, you're probably not even going to put the gas in. You're going to hire someone to drive you in a limo. And then all of a sudden, you're saying, drive nothing, I'm going to go and get a helicopter. By the 28th day, $1.3 million. Now, did we agree to 28 days? No. We agreed to 31 days. So 1.3 doubles to 2.6, it doubles to 5.3, and then the final day of our agreement, 5.3 turns into $10.7 million. Now who's laughing? You see, these concepts are what the wealthy know. And when Einstein, the smartest man on the planet, was asked what he believed some of the most powerful things on the planet was, he said that the eighth wonder of the world is compound interest. But what he says next is what I like better. He says, those people who understand compound interest are the ones that make it. Those people who don't understand it are the ones who pay it. So that's very interesting, isn't it? Now, how do you get compound interest to work for you? Well, remember in the video before this, you would have seen how we make the money, how the money is made in this program. I'm just going to overview that. Just basically, there's 3 questions that you need to say yes to. First question, do you want to make money? Yeah, everyone wants to make money. Second question, do you have the money it takes to get started? And the third question is, do you know 5 people that can answer yes to those same 3 questions? Now, in this particular formula with Tahisha Noni, there's many different ways to come in, but this is the way we choose because it is the best way. You pay $299, but now I'm going to assume, I want you to assume that you're already in now. You've already taken it and you're in. And this person is somebody that's going to be coming under you. So if you're in and you have a person that comes in and they pay $299 and they're signed up under you to get the Noni part of it, the Tahisha Noni part, you're going to make $102. Now remember, the question is, do you know 5 people by a certain time period? Let's just use weeks as an example. Do you know 5 people this week that can say yes to those 3 questions? And with our help. Of course, if that's the case, let's just put 5. Now remember, it's a formula. It's strictly a formula. It can be done in days, weeks, months, years. Strictly a formula. So let's say that we have 5 people. Well, the company pays you $102 for each one of those people, and that's going to give you $510. Let's go to the second week. Remember, this can be days, weeks, months, years, doesn't matter. Well, a lot of people say, wait a minute, I got to keep finding 5 people. No! If you follow the formula, the next week, if you got your 5, guess what? You've done it. You now are going to let those 5 do what they said. They all said, hey, I want to get 5 people. So if those 5 get 5 times 5 is 25. The company pays you $6 each, even though you didn't bring them in. $6 times 25 is $150. The next week or the next month is 25 people said, hey, I know 5. 5 times 25 is 125. Company pays you $6 each, which gives you $750. The next week or month or year, 125 gets 5. That's $625. The company pays you $6 each, which is $3,750. And then the 5th week, now we get actually paid down to 8 levels. We're only just showing you one of the ways that we get paid. This is called Fast Start. This is a weekly payout that they pay out. When you get someone in, you get paid the next week on it, basically in a nutshell. Now, if 625 people said, hey, I know 5, that gives you 3,125 people. The company doubles your income in this program, and they give you $12 each, which gives you $37,500. If you were to add all of that up, and that would be $42,660. But that's in a perfect world. That's if you know 5 and they know 5. And we know it's not a perfect world. You might be able to get 5, but 5 might get 1 might get 2 might get none. So what if we worked really hard and we fell short of $42,000 by 90%? We weren't even close. Would 10% of $42,000 still be worth the money it took to get started? A few phone calls and some time? Absolutely. That's still $4,266. You know what? We could even